Welcome to Raise Your Voice, the second season of Poets Corner or the Let's Be Happy podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media.
Hi, this is Poets Corner or the Let's Be Happy podcast, and welcome to the second series. I'm Rosamund Gravel with...
I'm Delphina.
And this series, we are looking at sounds and we're looking at amazing, extraordinary creatives who communicate in a variety of ways. And today on our first episode, we have the amazing Amy Claire Tasker and the wonderful Tom McGrath. Welcome to the show. And if you could just let us know a little about yourselves, that would be fantastic.
Thank you so much, Roz and Delphina, for having us. My name's Amy. I'm a theatre maker and musical theatre writer based in London. And Tom and I are working on a couple of musicals together.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm Tom and I am a composer and musical theatre writer from Ireland and now based in London. Yes. So very excited to be here.
Yes, we're very excited to have you both on, and we're really also very excited because this is our first episode. We've had two wonderful people on at the same time, so we're really, really excited. And I kind of like, how did you guys meet? Because I know, Tom, you're a composer, as you said, and Amy, you write for musical theatre. How did your collaboration start with each other?
Sure. Well, we met at the Book, Music and Lyrics musical theatre workshop in London, which is a professional development workshop for people who want to, improve their craft in music theatre writing. So I was on the workshop as a composer and Amy as a lyricist, and we were paired together to write a 10-minute musical, which we wrote about a love story which involved paper flowers. And we've discovered we were both equally nerdy and intense in our writing styles, and we made papier mâché or origami paper flower props for our musical for the class, and yeah, we just really hit it off. So that was it. All got started from there. So yeah, we were like, oh, this is intense. This is equally nerdy. Amazing.
Yeah. Do you still
such a joy to find someone who wants to work as hard as you do, and like whether you want to work really hard or not so hard, it's really important, I think, to find that match. That we want to work at the same level, and that was really joyful when we first started to work together. And so when Tom came to me and said, "Hey," I think it was the night that we in the pub after we presented our 10-minute musical, Tom said, "Hey, I've been thinking about this Joanna of Castile musical. Do you want to write it with me?" And I said, "Yes." And who's Joanna of Castile? So it's really like, I guess that shows you how good the partnership was. That I was into whatever we were gonna do next.
That's amazing. So I was planning to start with a different question, but now that you mentioned that and you working together, I'm going to start with this question. How was the process of working together?
You want to take that, Amy?
Sure. So I suppose we've been working together about 2 years now, and we have kind of developed our process in that time. I suppose when we did our 10-minute musical, I wrote some lyrics and Tom set them to music. And we also were working with the book writer at that time within the Book, Music and Lyrics workshop. And so we kind of together decided what the story was and who the characters were. And then, it was very kind of one thing and then the next thing and then the next thing. But now the way that Tom and I work together is much more fluid and much more collaborative, I would say. And we start with the story. A lot of people ask us, what comes first, the music or the lyrics? And actually, neither of those. The story comes first. So we really map out who the characters are and everything that happens and the structure of the show. And then we kind of song spot through that and like, okay, which moments are going to be done musically and which moments are going to be done in dialogue. And then we will usually sit down and map out the song in a very detailed structure, come up with the title. And then that's sort of step one that we do together. And then Tom will take it from there. Tom, do you want to talk a bit about what you do after that stage?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, I've mapped out the song altogether in terms of what the story is going to be, and generally what the overall section of the song might be in terms of the story, but there still isn't a single note written or an actual lyric written apart from the title. So then I'll take all that, the song map that we have, and I will write a first draft of the music, and I will write a dummy lyric. So it won't necessarily be the final lyric, but it'll be it's a lyric that will make sense and tells the story. And then when that's finished, I will pass it across to Amy. So the music is generally finished at that point, and then Amy will take my dummy lyric and really turn it into the final lyric, and then we'll have a kind of a final pass together where we just kind of will iron out the lyric, any little tweaks or changes or changes the story that needs to be made, or if the music has to be changed a little bit after that, I will go back and change it as well. So yeah, that's how we do that song. And then we generally write the musicals chronologically, so we start from the beginning and then go to the end. So we always start with the opening song first, and then we finish with the final song. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell, I guess, what we do.
How did you both come to use the vehicle of musical theatre to express your ideas and your? I know you do some other ways as well. Amy's got a ukulele, and but like the main thing for you guys about expressing these ideas and communicating. How did you both gravitate to MT?
Oh, well, I got into musical theatre because I was really into horror movies as a teenager, and when I was 14, when the Phantom of the Opera movie with Joel Schumacher came out, and I thought it was a horror film, so I was very excited because I'd read the book and I was so excited to go see this horror film, and I was quite disgusted in the cinema when they started singing, and I was like, oh, cool. But then fast forward 10 minutes, I was totally hooked, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this music is amazing, and I'd been sent to piano lessons for years, but after that movie, I went and I bought the vocal score with my pocket money, and it was the first time I'd ever wanted to play the piano and didn't have to be told to practice your piano. And my teacher was so surprised. He was like, "Gosh, you've learned the whole book." And I was like, "Yeah, like, I really liked it." So yeah, from there, that got me into musical theatre. And I really like pop music and classical music, and I find that musical theatre, you kind of I like lots of different styles of music, and I find in music theatre you can put them all together, and you can be as simple or as complicated as you want with the storytelling. Like it can be whatever you want to make it. There aren't any constraints. Which I find I've also in the past written classical music and pop music, and I find musical theatre you can be whatever you want it to be. That's why I really like musical theatre. Amy, maybe you have some other things to say?
Well, yeah. How did MT draw you into its clutches?
I suppose it started when I was about 16, and a friend of mine in choir in high school said, "Hey, do you want to come and audition for this musical with me?" And I had been doing music in school, but I'd never done any drama in school. And this was a sort of outside of school club. Anyway, we both got into this musical, and it was really good fun. It was probably very, very terrible production, but it did the trick. And from there, I went to university for theatre, and I actually kind of drifted away from musical theatre for a while, and got quite into like directing and writing and a bit of stage managing, and I produced a few like student theater shows, and I just absolutely thrived in that sort of really broad BA environment versus, I don't know if this is the same in the States as is here, but in my university, having a Bachelor of Arts versus a Bachelor of Fine Arts meant that I had the freedom to just bop around and do a bit of lighting design and do a little bit of costume sketches, do some writing, do some stage management, and I just wanted to devour every kind of theater experience that I could, and it took me a while to get back to musical theater. It really was in the pandemic, when I was playing myself some sad songs on the ukulele in lockdown, and I thought maybe I'll start writing some songs with this little instrument, and then I had the idea, oh, wouldn't it be fun to write a ukulele musical, which is still in development, but yeah, that's sort of how I got back into it. And then I've always loved musical theatre, but it just actually never occurred to me until about 2021 that I could write musical theatre. Because a lot of people who write musical theatre are called Steve and Andrew, and and I was just like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I could do that too. So yeah, here I am. Then I joined the book music and lyrics workshop, and the rest we've told you.
That's an amazing story. Were you still in the States? Because you are coming from there, as far as I know, and now you're here in London or in the UK. So when you were in lockdown, you were in the US?
Oh no. So my parents are from Leeds, in England. I grew up in California. I was 5 when we moved over there. I went to school and university over in California, and then spent about 5 years in San Francisco, um, working in a small experimental theater company in downtown, and then I moved to the UK in 2013. And so I was here in lockdown. Yeah, kind of skipped in my origin story there. I skipped a big chunk, but I decided to move to the UK. Actually, because I was at the time I was doing devised theatre, and that was kind of unheard of in the US. And I wanted to do kind of collaborative ensemble work, and London was really the place to be for that. But it also happens to be the place to be for musical theatre as well. So I got lucky.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned in the previous question that a story comes first, right? Before the whole performing process. So what about the story? How is that the story? Which story? Where do you find the stories? How do you find them? Or what moves you to tell this story and not this one and not that one?
Do you want to talk about the museum in Madrid?
Oh, sure. Yes. Yes. So for the Queen is Mad, the story how that came up, I was on holiday in Madrid 2 years ago, and I was in the Prado Museum, and I saw this painting of a woman who was crying over a dead body, and I thought, who is this woman and why is she crying? And so I looked up the painting on Wikipedia, and it turned out to be Joanna of Castile, and it was her husband who was deceased, and I'd never heard of her, but I just started reading all about her, and learned that she went down in history as Joanna the Mad, or Juana la Loca, and that it was thought she was a mad woman, insane, but that modern historians thought that she was not actually insane, but rather that she had been punished by her peers because she wouldn't be told what to do. So they said she was insane to control her. And I thought that was really a very sad story, and also something I wasn't aware had been made into a musical. Something that something I have learned from the book music and lyrics workshop is that a musical, generally a successful musical, will have some big epic, big stakes quality, not necessarily in a geographic way, but the story will have some big epic quality to it. I thought this is a really epic quality to a story. And also a lot of musicals are based on books or movies, but the problem with that is you need to get rights, whereas you don't need to get rights for a historical episode that happened 500 years ago. So I thought, this is really could be a useful way of telling a story that we can still have some originality to it. We have license to create the characters and tweak the story, but we also don't need to get rights for it. So I said to Amy, I've told her about this, and Amy said to me, Tom, that still happens to women in the world nowadays. And so when Amy came on board, it really started off initially as sort of thinking it was a musical about mental health, but then when Amy came on board, it really blossomed into this, where it is now, this very making a real message about gender equality and about the treatment of women in the patriarchy. So Amy, do you want to talk a bit about what happened then?
Sure, yeah. I think at a very early stage, before I really understood sort of the tone of what the show was going to be, I said to Tom, should there be a song that Joanna's husband and father sing called Bitches Be Crazy? And Tom said, no, Amy, I don't think there should be. But that was the thing that really kind of hooked me, because it was, Joanna went down in history as Joanna the Mad. Our little tagline is, what if she wasn't insane but furious? And that, and how could she not be furious in the way that she was treated? And I just immediately saw the parallels to like Britney Spears and the Free Britney campaign, and the Trump supporters that shouting "lock her up" about Hillary Clinton in the 2016 campaign. And it just seemed to me like, oh, this is exactly the same story. This woman won't shut up, and she won't be, mindful and demure. She won't do what she's told, and so she must be crazy. And so there's, yeah, that's sort of where that was the first thing that struck me about the story. And of course, we're always looking for why this story, why now, why are we putting this 500-year-old story in front of an audience in 2025? And yeah, those contemporary resonances, I think, are really key, really important.
Do you think it's interesting what you said a while back about being drawn to musical theatre, Tom, about the horror aspect? Do you think with this story there's a bit of a horror aspect as well? I mean,
no, good question, Roz. Yeah, absolutely. I really love. There's definitely a part of me that likes really dark material. Yeah, I definitely have that. I still like horror films and I like dark stories, and I'm also interested in I suppose the dark aspect of humanity. I mean, I also really love comedies. I love writing pop songs, and I love writing really happy songs as well. And I mean, I would love to write a musical about cartoon characters that's for children. But at the moment, I really this show I really like the darkness to it, and I should also point out I have no problem with a song called "Bitches Be Crazy," except for this show I kind of had in mind before it was written that there'd be kind of a sort of more classical, I suppose, almost tone to the music, and so I felt that maybe Bitches Be Crazy wasn't quite going to fit in with that music, but maybe it would in another show. Funny, Amy, you guys know who Catherine Ryan is? I went to see her comedy show last night, and at one point she went, "Oh, Bitches Be Crazy," and I thought, oh, Amy would like this.
I do like Catherine Ryan a lot.
But yes,
I suppose I was also coming from, well, I guess maybe, yeah, so 2020 I wrote and performed a show called Hot, Helen of Troy, which was a 1990s geek meets Greek play with songs. And I played a teenage version of myself who accidentally conjures the spirit of Helen of Troy to give me a makeover. And it's fun and silly, and has a message at its heart. And I think Bitches Be Crazy was sort of like in that vein. But I'm really glad that the show has turned out more kind of classical and serious. I feel like it's bucking the kind of trend in a what I hope is a timeless way, that we're telling the story without any sort of tongue-in-cheek or like, we really want it to be accessible, but we're not trying to chase the sort of satirical or I can't think of what is the word that I want. The sort of, the way that if you were doing well, I've seen lots of really great work lately in the last sort of 5 to 10 years where theater makers are taking an old story and putting a contemporary character in it to give audiences kind of an easy way in to that historical story. And that can work beautifully. I did it with Hot Helen of Troy. But I also really love that with The Queen is Mad, we are letting Joanna speak for herself without that contemporary lens. And the audience actually brings the contemporary sensibility to it. In the production, we have contemporary dress. So it's not like medieval costumes. And that is like the production is sort of pointing to the contemporary nature of the story, but the characters are still playing we're in Spain in 1504.
It's fantastic.
No, I just when you were talking, it's sort of, obviously there are so many amazing musicals, and the historical musicals, obviously Hamilton, like the poppy and the rap and the stuff, and the uplift, the progressing arc, and then obviously the tragedy at the end, wrapping it up. But if the darker stuff, like you can think of, like, although it's not quite well, it is musical, so like Sunset Boulevard, which has a sort of darker tones and resonances, they aren't so much on so much more. But it sounds great that you're bringing back these sort of deeper feelings and more, as I said, maybe a bit more unsettling, but really vital, important. And the music is fantastic, and it's sort of, you see all these changes and tones, and it does take you on a journey, and it doesn't feel too frightening. There is a bit of horror going on, a sort of darkness, but it leads you successfully down there to allow you to empathize and follow the story and follow Joanna in a really great way. So no, it's really fantastic, and it's going to be on again.
Yes, Roz, we're very excited. We're going to be bringing the show to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival for this August. It's going to be in the Zoo Southside venue from the 1st to 24th of August up in the Edinburgh Fringe. And before that, we're doing 2 previews in London. So we're doing previews on the 26th and 27th of July in the Lion and Unicorn Theatre in Kentish Town. So we'd love to see anybody there who'd love to come along and see it.
Sounds awesome. And I would encourage everyone to go see it if they can. It's really, really, really great. Any other questions, Delphina?
Yeah, I would like to ask, probably you have mentioned before, but what about the balance of telling a story from that time and trying to tell that same story today with working internally with all the characters and all the story, and then trying to put it out there with all this technology and with all these social media things and all the things that you have to take care of to complete the story nowadays. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I think so. That's so interesting. So the show itself, the characters speak is sort of in between how medieval people might speak and how contemporary people might speak. We actually did a 1-hour version of the show last year, and one of the reviews said that it sounded like a 16th century episode of The Crown. And we said, yeah, okay, cool, we'll take that. That's about right. So it's got a sort of classical sound, not only to the music, but also to the dialogue. But then, yes, you're right. Of course, we are promoting it on social media. We released the cast album last autumn on Spotify and Apple Music and everywhere you can listen to streaming music. We did a couple of music videos with the cast on the set between a Saturday matinee and an evening performance. I think that was. So we're definitely making use of all the contemporary tools at our disposal. It's funny that you say what you said earlier made me think of. There's a bit of a running joke, or maybe even a debate amongst musical theater writers about whether characters ought to have mobile phones and how difficult it is to make a story work and to sustain tension and suspense if the characters have mobile phones and they can Google stuff and they can text people, and and it really zaps the drama out of things sometimes if there's just ping, oh, there's the answer to that, ping, oh, now I have to get off stage and go somewhere, so it's great to. I'm really delighted that in The Queen is Mad nobody has a mobile phone. There's a series of letters, which is very classic. I think there's more letters in The Queen is Mad than there are in Doll's House. Like, Ibsen, eat your heart out. We got all the letters.
That's amazing. And how do you see the audience reacting to this story? Say,
one of my favorite audience responses was that somebody called it hideously contemporary, which I really loved. Like, it's a 500-year-old story, and yet we've done lots of research on emotional abuse and gaslighting for one particular song, for the story in general. And there's one particular song that is basically the gaslighter's anthem. And it's we did contemporary research to write that song, and we're definitely imagining, like, the character dynamics they're human dynamics, so they're kind of timeless, and the situation is unique to 1500s Spain, because she's inheriting the throne of Castile, and she's got to go and do the rituals and be crowned and all that. But the idea that her husband is jealous of her power, there's no time limit on that kind of dynamic.
Absolutely, no. It's unfortunate, but very true, and it's so important to keep resonating these stories out there and communicating them in all forms. Keep it going, keep getting the message out.
Yeah, it's like bringing. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to ask Tom if you have anything else you want to say about audience response, because I know you had lots of friends come along to the show last year.
No, I think they echoed what you're saying, Amy. I think also in terms of in terms of making a contemporary character, I suppose the advantage of doing historical adaptation for 500 years ago is, we can tweak. We're not seeking to create an entirely accurate historical representation. We have, in some cases, maybe made Joanna act or say things that would make her more sympathetic to a 21st century audience, because she is being viewed by a 21st century audience. And I think that's something we have in mind, certainly as we write the story, that in terms of making it contemporary, we're aware that we're writing for a 21st century audience, and so she has to be sympathetic to them. So yeah, that definitely is in our minds as we write it.
And the sort of, as you said before, the also not having a copyright and on the story is helpful. But yeah, no, and also sort of bringing forth and communicating stories which you're looking at them in a different way. Sort of obviously you say from your research, the historian saying that in fact she wasn't, it was being locked away and being got rid of, and this was the excuse. So it's important that these messages are given to us again and brought forward.
Well, yes, it was like everything we read that she's supposed to have done. We thought, well, yes, that is, could be, yes, it's quite, what's the word? I say agitated, but as in, for example, she ran away at one point when she was being threatened to be tortured by her parents. And we thought, well, that's, or supposedly did. We're like, that's actually a rational response. Apparently, a princess in the 15th century wasn't supposed to do that. So, but, again, everything she'd been accused of that made her seem crazy, we thought, well, actually, through 21st century eyes, it's all perfectly reasonable. And which I think was really what we're trying to come from here to show, actually, even though her society said she was insane, we as a 21st century audience can see why she may have acted in that way and how unreasonable it was the way she was treated. Am I right in saying that, Amy? I feel that's where we're going with.
Yeah. And I think as well, the other side of it is that her father and husband were the key proponents of the idea that she was mad. And of course, they stood to benefit because they took over from her as queen when she was locked away. So, whether, I suppose it's probably, that was the easiest way for them to discredit her because of the way that she behaved. And the way that she behaved was completely rational, given the way she was treated. But it's all a vicious circle and sort of self-fulfilling prophecy in a way that they call her mad. And, it's very difficult to insist that you're not mad without sounding like you're mad. And they knew that. And then they got to be king instead of her being queen.
Or maybe they didn't. You'll have to watch the show to find out.
Tom, are you really going to spoilers me on a 500-year-old story? Amazing.
It's fantastic.
I'm going to take down the Wikipedia page for Joanna of Castile.
With a mobile phone.
Right.
All information about Queen is Mad is on your Pinecones Performance Productions page. www.pineconeperformance.com. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. You can find everything there. And on our Instagram, which is The Queen is Mad Musical.
Cool. So you got this huge, wonderful, brilliant musical theatre and show going on. It's going on in Edinburgh. Are there any other stories that interest you and you want to communicate and that you find you want to sort of bubble up to people?
Yes, we're also our second show together we're working on at the moment is called Rising, and it's about the 1916 rebellion in Dublin, when Ireland was part of the British Empire, and a group of people rebelled and held an insurrection in Dublin for a week. And the man who led that rebellion was Patrick Pearse, and he's kind of known in Ireland as sort of the Irish kind of equivalent of George Washington, like the prototypical Irish national hero. But yeah, the musical is very much he's the protagonist, and the musical is about he was supposedly a gay man who was never come out of the closet, and and had a lot of internal self-hatred and doubt, which is documented in letters he published to himself, where he said how much he disliked himself and certain parts of his character. And the musical is really about how he comes to accept himself and overcome these self-doubts and self-hatred, and in spite of all that, lead the soldiers into a rebellion to fight for a country where he and everyone else can be accepted for who they are. So the musical is really about acceptance. So it's another historical story. But yeah, this one has more of an Irish flavor to the music. But yes, that's it in a nutshell. We're planning to we're doing that in Camden on July the 10th in the Irish Centre. If anyone is around who'd like to come see that, we're doing a workshop of the first or a rehearsed reading of the first act, and we're hoping to do again a workshop in Dublin in the new year, in the birthplace home of Patrick Pearse, which is now very coincidentally a theatre. So that's hopefully going to be happening early 2026.
That's fantastic. These stories are really interesting that you sort of bring to and want to share with the world, and sort of and a different viewpoint. It's do you think that maybe could it be coming and living in a different city kind of makes you want to challenge people's preconceptions? It's the sort of, or has your journey from different places to London sort of fed into these sorts of stories that you want to share with people and challenge their points of views?
I think certainly for the Rising musical is very much comes from me being an Irish person who has left Ireland, and when you leave your home country, I guess you feel a lot different, or I certainly felt a lot differently about it, and I never really liked Ireland, or sorry, never really liked being Irish when I was in Ireland, because I felt quite rejected in the small town community I grew up in. But then having moved away from the country, it made me, and having lived away for a few years, I can view it all with from a distance and realize, oh, actually, yes, I suppose I see a lot of parallels between the Ireland I grew up in and the Ireland of 100 years ago, where people also didn't feel accepted in the communities they were growing up in, and how they would like to change those communities to be more accepted. So that's where that came from. It's kind of, again, the parallels between the modern Ireland, which still, has ways to go in terms of accepting people. So that's definitely inspired that. Would you like to add anything for your report?
No, that's amazing. That's really, 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 really great. And as I said, these stories need to be told anyway, but sort of when they open up and shine a light and a path for everybody else, they're invaluable. And it's really, really amazing. Really amazing. And you, Amy, has the London, the English, the British parents and the California, and then coming back, has that sort of made you view things and want to communicate things in a different way? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I did a project, wow, it's almost 10 years ago now, called Home is Where, which was all about cross-cultural identity. And that sort of became an oral history library pop-up performance with headphones. And I suppose less literally now, I'm always interested in characters who are a bit of a fish out of water, and I think also I'm really interested in a sense of place in storytelling, that The Queen is Mad is it matters that it's set in Spain in 1500. And with Rising, it really matters that it's set in Dublin in 1916. And I think a sense of place is really a big part of how you tell a story and what the story means. And there's so much inspiration to be drawn musically and visually. The way that people speak, their accents, their phrases. Yeah, I think it's a huge part of any kind of storytelling, I think. And if you ignore it, or if you try and make it sort of unspecific in order to be more universal, I think it actually has the opposite effect. I think the universality of a story comes from the specifics of the characters being when and where they are. And then it's the human dynamic that I was talking about earlier. Is within those specifics, you recognize dynamics that are familiar and to whoever you are, wherever you are.
When you were talking, it sort of made me feel that, like, when you use musical theatre as your vehicle for those words and phrases with the music that Tom creates, it sort of allows that, literally, like, kind of a swim and a sort of the musicality of the words and of the phrase of how people talks or to that music. It sort of gives it an added dimension and added vehicle. I mean, you can write that obviously as a play and with accents and communicate it in speech. But it's sort of when you have music and the words and the accents and the way that people speak with music, it gives a different, a bigger dimension, maybe.
Absolutely. And it gives everybody a way in, and it also gives a special way in to certain audiences. So there's a song in Rising called Freedom that means something special to Irish people. And I think that's fantastic. I'm becoming kind of an honorary Irish person through my association with Tom and a wonderful group called the Irish Creative Collective, and working on Rising, doing all this research. I actually learned how to play the bodhrán, which is the traditional Irish drum, to do a performance a couple of weeks ago. And I was just like, oh yeah, where's my, I want my Irish flag now. I feel like I get it. I'm with you.
Even though I don't think Delphina plays the Irish drum, but Delphina drums away. So
Oh, cool.
She's
I do, so I can join you guys for the next project.
Amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll
Argentinian, Irish, and
what a mashup. Yeah, cool.
That will be fantastic. Okay, I'm amazed with all the things that you said, and I was about to say that it is important how emotions are probably the same ones from that time or whatever time than from before nowadays. But also, you made a great focus on the kind of story and how is it going to be told and how the story developed within time. So I think it's not only the kind of emotions and the things that you want to communicate, but also the story itself. So I think it's fantastic. I'm really amazed that this conversation is there anything that you would like to tell to people or to say anything else? I think we have covered what we were aiming to. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
I think.
Is there anything else?
Yeah. Sorry, and I'll jump in and be annoying. I think that you mentioned, are you running a crowdfunding campaign? Is that right?
Yes, we are. Thank you, Roz. Yes, so to get ourselves to Edinburgh, we are working with some really lovely producers, Hannah Jane and Katie Bennett, and the four of us are running this crowdfunding campaign to support the show going to Edinburgh. So that is on Greenlit, and you can search there on that website for The Queen is Mad. There's also a link to the crowdfunder, of course, on the Pinecone Performance Lab website that Roz mentioned earlier.
Absolutely fantastic.
And we've got some nice perks for our donors. So there are certain levels that will get you what have we got? You can have exclusive access to a demo recording of our new opening number because we've been rewriting this year up to heading up to Edinburgh, or in the lead up to Edinburgh. We've put out a CD from our cast album, so that's one of the perks. You can get a CD with a certain level of donation. That we'll do like a Q&A on Zoom with supporters of the musical. So yeah, have a look on the Greenlit page and see if there are any perks that you are excited about. And we'd love to have the support of any listeners who feel like contributing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Not at all. It's fantastic. It's a great musical. You've been fantastic guests, and thank you very much for coming onto the podcast and being the first guest and the first double guest that we have. So you've made it really, really special. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to the audience for rejoining us. And we hope that you enjoyed the first episode of the second series of Poets Corner, or
The Let's Be Happy podcast with
Rosamund Gravel
and Delphina. All right, guys, thank you so much. It has been really amazing having you here and telling all these beautiful stories. And yeah, thank you for the audience for being there on our first episode.
And we'll see you all soon. Bye for now.
Welcome to Raise Your Voice, the second season of Poets Corner or the Let's Be Happy podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media.